Point slope form. So far we've done slope intercept form. And now we're going to move into a different equation of a line because you have different information from it. Okay, so slope intercept form, you have a slope and what? A y-intercept, right? So that's slope intercept form. This is point slope form. So what two things do you think you have in point slope form? A point and a slope, right? Point slope form. So you have a point and a slope. Point slope form looks like this. It'll be y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, okay? Here's the parts you need to know. This y1 gets replaced with a number. This stays y. It doesn't get replaced with a number as your final answer, okay? Your final answer will put a number in place of the y1. That's just your y coordinate. Okay, what's m? Slope, so this will be your slope. And then the x1 is your x coordinate. Okay, this one doesn't have a y-intercept because it's not slope-intercept form, it's point-slope form. So you're gonna have a point and a slope and have to put it into this form of an equation for this first type of problem. So here's our first example. It says a line passes through -3, 6 and has a slope of -5. Okay, so you have a line that goes through a certain point. Here's our point. Okay, and has a slope of -5. And what they want is for you to put that into an equation. Okay, so they'll say write the equation of the line. EQN, by the way, is my abbreviation for equation. So write the equation of the line. Oops. So you have to look at what you have. You have a point, you have a slope, so we're going to plug it into point slope. The way we do that is by identifying my x1, my y1, and my m, right? So we're going to replace this number, that number, and that number. Now what you need to notice is that the equation itself, the point slope form itself, is subtraction. So it's y minus my y1 value. It's x minus my x1 value. So if -3, 6 is x1 and y1, first I would label those to make sure you plug them in the right place. And then your -5 is your m, okay? So we're gonna take y minus our y1 value. What is y1 right now? 6. So it's y minus 6 equals, what's gonna go next? -5. It's your m, okay? And my m is -5. And then you have parentheses x minus my x1 value. What is x1? -3. So if I say x minus a -3, a better way to write that would be what? X plus 3, right? Minus a negative is plus a positive. So your answer is y minus 6 equals -5 times x plus 3. That is point slope form. You don't have to rearrange at all. If they say, give me the equation of a line, and they don't say it has to be in slope intercept, then you leave it like that. Okay, that is your answer. Questions on that? Okay, I'm gonna do another problem just like that with a different point and a different slope. Let's say instead my point this time is -2, -5, and my slope is 1/2. Okay, we're gonna plug that in. So -2 is which variable? That's your x1. -5 is my y1. Okay, so it's y what? Plus 5, right? It's y minus a negative 5. So you may start it as minus a negative, or if you know right off the bat that that makes it plus, you may leave it as y plus 5 right off the bat, okay? So y minus a negative 5 equals, then you do your m. Jada, put that stuff away. You need to be with me right now. 1/2 is your m, and then it's x, what? Minus negative 2, which is going to become plus a positive 2, okay? So your answer right now, this would be plus a positive, this would be plus a positive, so your simplest answer is y plus 5 equals 1/2 times x plus 2. For this type of problem. Plug it in, okay? So here's my question then. What if we turn it into a graph setup? Okay, if I say graph y minus 1 equals 2/3 times x minus 2. Okay, here's the deal. What was the name of this form? Point slope, right? So there should be a point and there should be a slope. The slope is typically pretty easy for people to find. What's the slope? 2/3. Okay, so my slope is 2/3. The point is what usually gives people a little more trouble, and for 2 reasons, which is why, again, it gives trouble. First of all, the number that is there for your x and for your y is the opposite of what it should be. Because we're subtracting, okay, it's the opposite of what you want. So, for instance, right now, my x value looks negative, right? X minus 2. It is positive because the equation says x minus your x1 value. So if it's x minus x1 and it says x minus 2, then x1 is 2, right? So be careful with this. What it looks like here is not what it is. It's the opposite of that. So if it looks like a negative 2, my point is actually a positive 2. Okay? Now the other issue is your y comes first and then your x, but when you name a point, it goes x first and then y. So you have to do this with them and then make them the opposite of what they look like they are. Does that make sense? So my point right now in this setup is 2, 1. Okay? Before we even graph that, I'm going to give you another one and see if you can give me a point and a slope. What if I gave you y plus 3 equals negative 1/2 times x minus 4? What is your point right now?
4 and negative 3.
Good work. Okay, so positive 4, negative 3. Because if it says plus, that's because it was minus a negative. Okay, so 4, negative 3 is your point. What would my point be in y minus 7 equals 4 times x plus 1?
Negative 1 plus 7.
Your point would be negative 1, 7, right? This is your x1 value, but it's opposite of what it looks like. This is your y1 value, but the opposite of what it looks like. Okay? It's really good. I'm glad you're getting that. Okay. So if we need to graph this, then we need to get out a graph. Okay, so if this is our graph, here's what you need to be careful of with this. You have a point and you have a slope. That is the order that you do it in when you graph. If it's point slope form, you do the point first and then you do the slope. So my point right now is 2, 1. Where do I move for 2, 1? 2 to the right, 1 up, right? So 2, 1 puts me right here. That's my point. Then my slope is 2/3. Where do I move for that? Up 2 to the right 3, right? 1, 2 up, 1, 2, 3 to the right. And then you would take your straight edge and draw that line in. Okay, so that will be the graph of that equation. What if I gave you this equation? Y plus 3 equals 2 times x minus 4. What is your point right now?
Positive 4 and negative 3.
Right, positive 4, negative 3, right? Opposite of this, opposite of that. Make sure you switch the order. And then what's your slope?
2.
The slope is 2. Okay, what do I plot first, the point or the slope? The point. So your point is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 3, 1, 2, 3. So to the right 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, down 3, 1, 2, 3. So you have your point. Where does a slope of 2 move? Up 2 over 1. A lot of you on the quiz did a slope of 2 as up 2 over 2. But the number 2 is 2 over 1, right? Dustin, will you put your bag on the ground? So up 2 over 1, you're going up 2 over 1, and you would get that point. You could do it again. Up 2 over 1, you get that point. Okay, so you would take your straight edge, line that up, draw your line in. Oops, still moving. Why are we not drawing? There we go. So that would be the graph of it, okay? That question often gives people a lot of trouble. You guys sound to me like you're getting it rather quickly. Do you feel good about it? Okay. If you're not, talk to me. We'll have time at the end of class. I can come sit down and go over whatever you need me to go over with you, okay? Don't be bashful. Okay, next thing. What? You do have homework. Yes. Example 3. Okay, let's say I give you a graph. So this one you're kind of working backwards from what we just did. You're going to start with the graph, and you have to come up with the equation. Okay, so my graph looks like this. You have a point at 1, 4. Whoops. Yeah. Graph, yeah, go for it. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. And negative 2, negative 3. Girls, talk about it later. That's a 3. Okay, so let's say we have this line, and we want to come up with the equation, of this line. Why? This thing doesn't want to draw lines for me right now. Okay, now think about this again, okay? This is point, slope, form. So you need a point and you need a slope. Can you find a point or a slope in this graph?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 points, right? You just need one. So pick one of those points to be the point that you're going to work with. Which one would you prefer to work with? 1, 4 or negative 2, negative 3?
1.
Okay, so this is to each his own, whatever you think is easiest. I think 1, 4 is easier, personally, because you don't have to work with the negatives. But you may do the other, and you will get the same thing. It's going to look different, but it's the same line, okay? So if we use the point, 1, 4. Sorry, my ruler is there, and it is trying to draw a straight line from my ruler. So if I use the point 1, 4, then I just need to figure out what my slope is to be able to put it into point slope. How do you find slope in something like this? You could use the 2 points, right? Or you could count off your rise over run. So either one of those ways is fine. If you use the 2 points, that's where we do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. When they give you a graph like this, I think it's way easier to not do that and just count it. Because basically what you're saying is from left to right, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up, 1, 2, 3 over. So my slope is 7 over 3. Now, you don't have to do that. You're welcome to do this. It's just more work. Okay? So if I'm given this graph and I need to put it into point slope form, what's that going to look like?
Y plus, no,
Minus.
Y minus 4
Right.
equals 7/3
You can both answer.
Wait, that's the answer?
minus 1.
Right. So if I say, give me the equation of the line, that's your equation. Okay? Find a point. There's 2 to choose from. You may pick either one. And then find the slope. Plug those in. So this, at this point, once you have this stuff, it's question 1 all over again. Right? Example 1 all over again. Okay, let me give you another one.
I have a question.
Yeah.
But how would you know if it's plus or minus when you're doing y minus?
It's always y minus the y1 value. So if my y1 is 4, it's y minus 4. If it was, my y value was a negative 4, then it's y minus negative 4, which becomes y plus 4. I'll show you on this problem.
So it's gonna be subtraction.
It's always subtraction, but sometimes it appears to be addition once you've plugged everything in.
Okay, and then the x one is the same thing, it's always subtraction.
Yeah. Yeah, the formula is subtraction. Okay, how about if I give you these points? Negative 2, 1. I'm just going to do it on the same, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to do a new graph, just so I'm not confusing you. Okay, so negative 2, 1 is here. What? This thing does not like me right now. Okay, so we have that point, negative 2, 1. Why are you whistling?
Oh,
Stop.
sorry.
Are you?
Yeah.
Starting to not believe that. 1, 2, 3. 2, negative 3. Okay? You have this line, and we want the equation of it. Okay, so to find the equation of the line, this is point slope. What do you need? A point and a slope, okay? So pick a point. This one, you have a negative on each one. I'm just going to do, as my point, the negative 2, 1. Okay? And then we need to find our slope. So again, I would just count it off. You're going from the left to the right. So you need to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. What is down 4? Negative 4. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. So down 4, 4 to the right is what slope? Negative 1. Okay, so now you have a point and a slope, and you're just going to plug it into point slope. So y minus your y value equals the slope times x minus your x value, which is negative 2. So again, minus a negative becomes plus a positive. So you get y minus 1 equals, technically you don't even have to put the 1 in here. You could just put the negative in if you want. I'm just going to put the 1 so people aren't getting confused by it. But that would be your answer. Okay? Tell me this. What's the slope of this line? Negative 1, right? That's what I was just saying. This right here would be a 1, even if the 1's not in there. Yeah.
Would it be plus 1 because it was negative? Like, negative and a 1.
Where was the 1 negative?
Like, you know how it's negative 1?
That's the slope,
Oh.
right? That was here.
Okay.
This one is a positive 1. That's the one that's going here.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that what you were looking at? Okay. How are we doing so far? Questions? Next example. Example 4. You guys still didn't make it in 2 minutes. after a full-on, like, talking to about what 2 minutes is. You still didn't make it in 2 minutes.
Wait, we did it?
Unbelievable. No.
We literally
Are you
ran
supposed
around
to
the
make-
whole.
Yeah.
We see it right here.
And he was like laughing.
What, dude?
You don't have like a.
That's really, that's really.
All right, here we go. Write an equation
Did I ask him? I don't remember.
in point slope form for the line that passes through these 2 points, negative 4, 1 and 5, 3. Okay, here's the deal. This question is essentially the last question we did. The only difference is they haven't graphed it for you, okay? They gave you 2 points and they said put it in point slope form. So if you don't have the graph of it, but you need point slope, you need a point and you need the slope. How do I find the slope if I don't have a graph?
Why the Y stuff?
Right, y2 minus y1
Wait.
over x2 minus x1, right? That's how we're gonna find our m, which is the only thing we need to find right now, okay? So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it into that formula where this is my x1, y1, and this is my x2, y2, okay? Plug that in for me. What minus what?
Y2 minus,
Numbers, give me numbers.
3 minus 1, 5 minus negative 1.
Right, you're gonna say 3 minus 1. Some of you on the last quiz, be careful with this. Some of you were putting the x's on top and the y's on bottom. You need to flip that, okay? You need y on top and x on bottom. So 3 minus 1, and then 5 minus a negative 4. So 3 minus 1 is 2. 5 minus a negative 4 is 9, right? Plus a positive. So this is m, okay? Now we're back to example 1 all over again. Do you see how many times we do things where it just gets back to that like example 1 setup? And you all told me, well, a chunk of you told me this is easy. Is this all we're doing? Okay? So don't let an extra step in the problem freak you out. Now you have a slope and you have a point, and we want point slope form. Your job is to pick which point you want to work with. So do you have a preference? 5, 3, okay. So if this is the point we're going to use, it is not wrong to use the other one, by the way. You may use the other one, okay. But if we're going to use 5, 3, we're plugging it into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. What's going to go here?
1.
If you use negative 4, 1, it would be that. If we're using 5, 3, it's 3, okay. So y minus 3
Equals 2 over 9.
equals the slope, 2 over 9.
Minus
5.
Yeah.
X
5.
minus 5. Okay, so this is one acceptable answer. Or if you use your other point, this point, then you could say y minus 1 equals 2/9 times x minus a negative 4, which would be plus a positive 4. This would be your other acceptable answer. You could give me either one of those and be fully correct. Okay? We're going to do one more of those.
Do we have a worksheet or just a...
Bookwork. Okay, so let's say my points are this, 6, 1, and negative 2, negative 1, and I want point slope form. What's the first thing you have to do?
We have to identify the x1 and x2.
Right, so x1, y1, and x2, y2, so that we can find what?
The point and slope.
Slope, okay? So slope is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, simplify that. So this is my m. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 minus 6 is negative 8. What does that reduce to?
Negative 1/4.
Positive 1/4, right? Negative divided by negative is positive. So 1/4. Okay, so this is m. What point do you want to use?
I want to use 6 and 1 because it's no negatives.
Okay, so if we're gonna use this point and this slope, plug that into point slope for me. Y what? Plus or minus?
Minus
Y minus 1 equals,
1 over 4, parentheses, x minus 6.
beautiful. Okay, so this is your answer. Questions on that? Okay, so find the slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and then plug it into point slope form. Okay, last question. Let's say you have a T-chart where this is what?
Is this the whole list or is this like the first one?
This is my very last thing to show you for the day. So time in seconds, and then altitude.
This is for Jada. It's check.
Thank you. Okay. Altitude in meters. All right. So let's say this is what it looks like. 10, 30.
Your sorry was louder than your call.
She said, yo, your start was like That's wait, I think she made her walk over here for no reason because I don't need to check.
Let's check.
Don't worry. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. So this is your T-chart. Okay. This is what it says. The table, this T-chart, shows the altitude of a hot air balloon during its linear descent. In other words, it's coming down in a linear descent, straight line fashion. Okay. What equation in slope-intercept form gives the balloon's altitude at any time? What do the slope and y-intercept represent? Okay, so here's what we're going to do on these problems. And this problem on your next quiz and on your practice quiz and on the review worksheet, all the stuff that's leading up to you getting evaluated on one of these problems has multiple steps, and I lay it out for you piece by piece by piece. Okay. The first thing that I'm going to tell you to do is to find the slope. Okay, so find slope. Because it's saying that this is a linear descent, you don't have to find it for a bunch of points. Okay, so in order to find the slope, you're going to just pick 2 points. Actually, that's the first thing I tell you to do, is I tell you to say, what are your 2 points that you're going to use? Okay. The second thing is you're going to use those 2 points to find the slope. So you get to pick from 1, 2, 3, 4 points, whichever 2 you want. I recommend starting with the lowest ones. Unless you have like negatives and stuff that you don't feel like messing with, you can move to different ones where you don't have to mess with the negative. But I would say just pick these 2 points. So 1 point is going to be 10,640. Okay, the other point is going to be 30,590. Okay. Then your job, step 2, and I will lay that out for you, is find the slope. So how do you find slope from 2 points? Right. Call this x1, y1, call this x2, y2, and plug it into y2 minus y1. So 590 minus 640 over 30 minus 10. Okay, when you simplify that, you get a negative 50 and a positive 20. Okay? If I reduce that, in a real world problem like this, we typically just turn it into a number. So negative 50 divided by 20 is negative 2.5. Okay? As a slope, that's like negative 2.5 over 1, right? You get this negative 2.5. Here's my question. What does that mean right now?
Is the slope?
It is the slope. It's like a rate of change, right? Negative 2.5 what per what?
Out second per.
Meters, right? Because it's y on top per second. Okay? So we're saying this is dropping 2.5 meters per second. Okay? The hot air balloon is dropping 2.5 meters per second. Micah, will you put your iPad away, please? Thank you. Okay, so once we have found our slope, now we have our slope here. That's our m. Oops, sorry for crossing it out. Try again. That's our m. Now you need to pick a point. So just pick one point that you want to work with. You may pick any of the points there. I would pick the first one, 10, 6, 40, just because it's the first one. It's just simple. Okay? Once you've done that, then you're going to do point slope form. Okay? What is point slope form going to look like if I have a point and a slope? Can you plug that into point slope for me?
You said what?
Point slope form using this point and this slope.
Y minus 640 equals negative 2.5. In parentheses, x minus 10.
Right. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? Now here's where you got to take your time and do these steps careful. Your fifth step is change it to slope intercept. Okay, slope intercept form is y equals, right? You're solving for y. So right now, I need to isolate my y. So I'm starting with this. This is what we just solved. Jada, don't do it. I need to turn that into y equals something. So my first step is distribute, right? I'm going to distribute this, okay? So it's going to be y minus 640 equals negative 2.5 times x, and then negative 2.5 times a negative 10 would be a positive or plus 25. Okay, you have one step left to make it slope intercept. Do you see what it is?
You just did the distributive property,
I just distributed here and here to get this.
and that's it?
That's it so far. So how do I get it to be y equals mx plus b? Slope intercept form, you add. There you go. We're going to add 640 to both sides. So plus 640. Okay, this goes away, and I'm left with y equals negative 2.5x plus 665. Okay, this is slope intercept form. Okay, so this is slope intercept. This is point slope. Okay, the last question that you have to answer on this is what does it mean? So we already said this. Your slope is, you're going down, down 2.5 meters per second. Okay, and then do you know what this means?
On the graph, it has to go down. Does it negative?
Going across.
No.
Oh.
What is this called in slope intercept form? It's the b. It's the y-intercept, right? Your y-intercept is where x is 0. So whatever this is your like starting point, right? So that means we started at an altitude of 665 meters, right? That's your starting point. It's your initial height that you started at, and then you descended from there. Okay? Any questions on that?